means when people say you have to mix it with a bit of love in the food. What does it mean?
For me, it means I literally zone when I'm cooking. I turn my phone off. I'm in a zone, and sometimes people may not believe, but I literally feel the spirit of my mom with me. I can hear her talking, and I wish I could show you a picture. But one day, I think it was during Thanksgiving time, I was literally in the kitchen for hours, maybe days, preparing, and I had on some gloves, some white gloves as I was preparing food. And you know how you sweat when you wearing gloves? It was literally a heart shape that came up on the glove.
Mhm.
So that let me know that my mom was there with me. And again, everything I do is from scratch, and I'm
Mhm.
doing it with my heart. And I'm doing it as if I'm cooking for myself because I know how I want my food, and I want to make sure that I want to give that same preparation to my customers that I
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. PJ, your host for Dr. PJ Storyline. So, thank you again for tuning in for another episode. And today, many of you may not know, is March and it's International Women's Business Month. And we just really want to capture those stories of women who are starting businesses, who have started businesses, and get insight into why they've started their business. And today, our guest is Natasha Henderson, the owner of Dorothy Delight. So let's welcome Natasha. Natasha, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so tell people about Dorothy's Delights. What type of business is it and when did you start it?
Dorothy's Delights is a catering business. Of course, it's named after my mother. I lost my mother in October of 2015. My mother was always the type of person, if you step through her door, the first thing she would ask you is, "Baby, are you hungry?" So that's the, I kind of took it from there. I started my business back in 2017. I used to work for this company and we used to have potlucks all the time. And I was always requested to bring something larger than anybody else for the potluck. So when I started doing that, my coworkers really pushed me to start my business. And ironically, I was sitting in a Starbucks having a meeting with my cousin who also has her own business, and she was, helping me get off the ground. And just so happened, I went to Grambling State University, and just so happened it was one of my alumni in that Starbucks, and she overheard us talking. And she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna mention your name to some of the alumni because like maybe within the next couple of months they were getting ready to have an all whites party." So that's where it all started, in a Starbucks, getting my business started. And I actually catered that event within the following couple of months. I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 months after that. So it's been nonstop since then. Nonstop since then. So yes.
It really took off, and I didn't even know that, but the fact that you were a woman, you with another woman, and a woman overheard you.
Hmm.
And so that all came together. So that's cool. That's really
Yes.
good. And I like that because that just shows how women empower women just from everyday things, just from everyday
Yes.
conversations. And
Hmm.
so what made you want to name it Dorothy's Delights after your mother?
After my mother, it's three generations. I literally have, I wish I could show you. I have a little recipe box that my mom kept. And in that recipe box, it has recipes from her grandmother, which was my great grandmother, her mom, which was my grandmother, and then from her. So it's literally three generations of recipes that I go by. Um, One of my top things a lot of people like from me is because the way I do my banana pudding, it's not a pudding, it's a custard. And that's how they do it back in the old days, where they would literally stand over the stove and stir, not an actual pudding. So that's one of my top sellers. So that's what kept me going. And I named it after my mom because my mom loved to cook. And her favorite dish for myself, my brothers, my daughter, and my dad, she would always cook her pot roast with collard greens, candy yams, mac and cheese, and hot water cornbread. And ironically, that's what I'm cooking on tomorrow.
You're trying to get everybody hungry, right?
Yes.
Everybody, they need that up. And that's so amazing to hear that that's a generational business. And so anybody who has tuned into the storyline, they know I love talking about legacy, and that definitely is legacy. And I'm not going to drum into it too much today because I think I always talk about it, but it's just what I do. And so do you have any stories that maybe your mother told you about her mother or her grandmother of why that love of cooking has been passed down?
I can relate to some stories that my mom used to tell me that her mom, which was my grandmother, her sisters, I'm from a small town called Ruston, Louisiana, and my mom is from a small town called Cullen, Louisiana. And they used to call it this little area called Froggy Bottom for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah. But my grandmother's sister, she used to have a cafe. It was like
Oh,
way back in the day. So I
okay.
heard her burgers were really famous. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was like a main popular thing for people to go and hang out at my aunt's cafe. So it literally all started from my great grandmother cooking and showing them how to cook. And basically they're just going from there. I remember my grandmother, I don't know if you've ever heard of Jack Micros. It's like a salmon croquette, what they call it now. I
Uh-huh.
literally ate it so much I got tired of eating it, and I don't want to eat it anymore. Because my grandmother, she would used to make homemade biscuits with salmon croquette, and I would always remember the blackburn syrup. So that was like one of her go-to meals. And she would make chicken and dumplings with the roller pin. She would literally roll out her dough. So yeah, I have a lot of stories to tell about food.
And I love that because when people are starting their businesses, a lot of times you see that family history, of how the previous generations have influenced the other. And it's just for me, I find that it's a way for folks to be connected to,
Mhm.
their ancestors, but also it just shows you how meticulously designed we are. And what I mean by that is we could have been born to like any family
Right.
ever, right? But we come from, different lineage that has different skills, and just being in that environment, we're able to take that and then develop it, put our own spin on it and keep that moving. And so that's great to hear, uh,
Yes.
to hear that. And so you talked about one of your favorite dishes or that people love from you, but what do you like? What's your favorite dish that you like to prepare and why?
I think my favorite dish is I love collard greens. I love collard greens and hot water
Mhm.
cornbread. I can literally eat greens and bread. Just I don't need nothing else. I can just
Right.
literally just yes, just greens and bread. That's it. That's all I can eat by itself. Yeah, and I think that's one of my favorite dishes, and I do cook it quite a bit. I cook it
Mhm.
quite a bit. Yeah,
Why do you think you like that so much?
watching my mom, literally watching my mom, and I remember the house that I grew up in. My room was kind of like down the hall to the back, and the kitchen was up front of the house. So every Sunday before we would go to church, my mom, she would start cooking her dinner. So when we got out of church, she wouldn't have too much to do. And one of the things that she would always get started first is the greens and the bread.
Mm.
And when my mom had her back turned, I would literally sneak in the kitchen. I would sneak in the kitchen, and it's like this wall that was kind of separating where she couldn't really see me. So I would sneak in the kitchen and I would reach around and grab me a piece of bread and run back to the room. And ironically, she knew it was me because she was like, Tasha, stop stealing the bread. And I was like, yes, ma'am. But hey, it was fresh. It was coming hot out of the grease, and it was just, it's good.
Yes, yes, yes. And so with those stories, does your daughter help you cook sometimes, or how does that aspect play? No?
Sometimes she do. She do. Sometimes she do. The only thing is with my daughter, she likes to cook. I will say that. So I can tell that this will be a legacy that'll keep going.
Mhm.
However, she does not like to bake. She does
Ah,
not like to bake. So she will cook. but no baking. She loves to cook pasta, and my daughter's a big seafood eater, so she likes to do a lot of things with seafood.
Oh,
Whereas I'm not a big seafood eater, and neither was my mom. My mom would eat fish, but it was like that was it.
yeah. So me
Yeah,
and your daughter, we have something in common there.
come yes, yeah. She loves seafood. She anything shrimp, lobster,
Oh,
crawfish. She's into it. Yeah,
oh yeah, that's my girl then.
yeah.
So when starting your business, what what makes you keep wanting to do it, and what are some of the challenges that you faced in having this business?
I want to keep doing it because the more I do it, honestly, Portia, I get a lot of positive feedback. A lot of
Mm,
positive feedback, especially when I'm doing my baking. People will ask me, "What are you doing to this? Or how do you do this? And how do you do that?" And I was like, "I can't tell you because a lot of things are secrets." And
right.
one thing I will pride myself on, I do all of my cooking from scratch. I don't
Mm,
do nothing prepared. I handmade from scratch. Now, the hardest thing is I just had an issue where someone booked, actually, I had two issues where I lost money
mm,
in the process of it because someone booked an event, then they canceled, and it happened. It actually happened twice in a row.
mhm,
Whereas I had other people that was actually wanting those days, and I canceled on them because I previously had someone else booked. So I'm learning that process now. I'm actually getting a contract in place now.
mhm,
Whereas moving forward, if you select a date, you have to sign a contract and a deposit to hold that date. Other
mhm.
than that, I can't hold it anymore. So it hasn't been too bad, just a little hiccups here and there, but nothing major. Nothing major.
Yeah, and
Which is a
that's
good thing.
yes, yes, and that's good. And I just wanted to bring that to the forefront because a lot of times when we have small businesses, and I don't know why, we do this, and what I mean is that sometimes we hold our small businesses to a higher standard than we
Mhm.
do our big business,
Right.
So
Yeah.
like I won't mention any names, but if we have a food chain and maybe something happens and it doesn't go right with them, then we're okay. We might be mad, but we'll continue to visit that
Right.
food. But if a small business makes one little bitty mistake, then we are first to run and say, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
don't do business there."
Mm-hmm.
People do that.
Yeah. I don't understand it either. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and so I just really wanted to let folks know that, especially small business owners, and I know small business owners watching this are probably like, yes, why do
Yeah.
why do people do that? And so if you could give advice to customers on what they can do to better support small businesses, what advice would you give?
Be patient.
Hmm.
You have to be patient. And a person like me, I'm a one woman show. So if I have someone to call me and say, "Hey, Tasha, can you do this event for me?" And this event is holding up to 200 people. I don't need you to call me a week before and ask me to do this. I need you to give me at least 2 or 3 weeks advance notice. And sometimes people don't understand that. They feel like, oh, it's just food. That's not the case for me because again, I do everything handmade, homemade. I go to the grocery store, I do my shopping, I prep, I cut, whatever needs to be done to prepare for that event, I have to do it. And things take time. And sometimes customers have to realize some of the ingredients I need, I may go to one store and they may be out. So that means I have to go to another store. So things take time. And that's my main goal is to people is you have to be patient. You have to be patient.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, and it sounds to me, and I can just tell when you were describing all those different things you make, making me hungry over here. I feel like with your business and what you make, there's the love being in the food. So,
Mm-hmm.
can you kind of talk about when you're making something, what does that mean when people say, you have to mix it with a bit of love in the food.
Mhm.
What does it mean to
For
you?
me, it means I literally zone when I'm cooking. I turn my phone off. I'm in a zone. And sometimes people may not believe, but I literally feel the spirit of my mom with me. I can hear her talking. And I wish I could show you a picture, but one day, I think it was during Thanksgiving time, I was literally in the kitchen for hours, maybe days, preparing. And I had on some gloves, some white gloves as I was preparing food. And it was, you know how you sweat when you
Mhm,
wearing gloves? It was literally a heart shape that came up on the glove.
mhm,
So that let me know that my mom was there with me. And
mhm,
again, everything I do is from scratch, and I'm
mhm.
doing it with my heart. And I'm doing it as if I'm cooking for myself because I know how I want my food, and I
Right.
want to make sure that I want to give that same preparation to my customers that I want for myself. So that's it's everything I do is from scratch and from love because I want to see people smile and I want them to come back to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with Dorothy's Delights, in let's give it 3 years, where do you see
Mhm.
it go?
Honestly, I don't want to go into any full-size building. I want a food truck. That's my ultimate goal is to have a food truck. That's my goal. And I want it to have that symbol with my mom's picture on it. And I want it to be like a soul food type of food truck because we don't really have many soul food trucks around here.
True,
So,
true.
and that's what I want. That is my ultimate goal.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so with Dorothy's Delights and what you're doing, what legacy, you know what, because you're already really contributing to the legacy that has been provided to you by the women who came before you. So what is your unique piece that you're adding to this legacy?
I think the presentation, a lot of the
Mhm.
presentation that I do, because I like I said, my mom did cook, but she didn't take a lot of pictures, you know. It was like, she cooked, she would put it out on the table, here it is. But what I do, especially when I'm cooking for someone and I'm getting ready to deliver, I have to make sure wherever the food is that it's a clean, neat area for my presentation because that keeps people coming back to me. So, oh, your pictures look nice. Oh, your food looks good. I don't only want it to look good, I want it to taste good to you. So that's the biggest thing for me is presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as we come to a close, is there any story that you can share of maybe one client that you've had that they may have just placed an order for you, but it turned out to be something larger, or it somehow it touched your heart in
Yes.
providing servicing that client?
Oh yes, I have a lot of those stories. I actually a lot of my business, to be honest with you, are from strangers. Literally from strangers. This one lady, she just ran across my page. She lives out in Pasadena. She's an older lady. She ordered something from me, and I have literally been cooking for this lady since then. She will not only call me, sometimes she'll order every week, sometimes she'll order every other week, but it's been and it's heartwarming for me because she's an older lady, and she just it's like when I get to her, her face just lights up, and she's just happy that she has food. And that helps me to keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is great. So
Yeah.
Tasha, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Mhm.
I knew part of it, of course, but I didn't know how deep the lineage ran in food. And
Mhm.
so that just excites me to see that is continuing on and just to really to hear in your passion and really to not only to hear it, but I can see it
Yes.
in your face when you talk about it. And so again, thank you for sharing your story. And
You're
I just want
welcome.
you to know we got to support our small businesses, our entrepreneurs. As Tasha said, be patient, but also have some grace because I know as folks, there's a lot of different of the major stores, major chains that we patronize, and we give them chance after chance after chance,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
don't have that uh, one-on-one interaction that we can get from small businesses.
Right.
And so the grace that we give those organizations, let's double that grace and give it to our small businesses, because what we have to understand is our small businesses are the vehicles that are really driving each of our local economies. So we have to take care of our small businesses, and they'll take care of us because they're hiring the folks in our community. They're providing the services to the folks in our community, and we need our communities to be strong because nations are built off of strong communities. So Tasha, again, thank you for sharing your story.
Welcome.
Make sure y'all check out Dorothy's Delights. She made us hungry by talking about that cornbread and collard greens, and so much it made her want to steal some. Thank you all for tuning into the Dr. PJ Storyline. I look forward to seeing you all soon.